Hello, welcome to our sixth webinar series of the 2022-2023 school year. I am your virtual PLC lead for 6 through 12 band, Dr. Zandra Bell McCroy, and let's jump right in to part one of our sixth webinar series. And that is getting ready for large group performance evaluation sight reading. So part one is just where do we start? Let's take some of the anxiety out of sight reading. So, in my opinion, the first step in tackling sight reading is building individual skills and conceptual knowledge in your students. And so, to do that, you do have to teach conceptually. And teaching large scale concepts can be difficult. You have to think of the concepts being, they're derived from the six elements of music, right? Rhythm, melody, harmony, form, expression, style, and then determine how those concepts align with the standards and start to kind of organize this conceptual knowledge that they need, right? And so you're going to take those standards and really break them down and figure out what resources you have already and what resources you're using and how to best use those resources to make sure you help to internalize those concepts into your kids' brains. All right, so then skills-based teaching is really important because you're using the standards to help determine what skills they must attain, right? So you need to know what they need to be able to do, right? Conceptual knowledge is about what they know. Skills is about what they can do. So align those skills, those needed skills with your method book. So once you know what level you're going to be reading, or you're going to be performing at large group, you will know what level your kids will be playing in the sight reading room. So if you go level one, you'll read level one. If you go level 2, 3, you'll read level 2. So you're always going to go the same level that you play on stage, or the lower of the two levels that you play on stage if you go split level, right? So find supplementary materials to help teach these skills. Depending on the method book alone can be dangerous, because what if there's something you need that doesn't exist in your method book? And that's okay. You can always write it, or you can find it online, or you can ask someone else that may use a different method book, or may have written some things, or may know of a resource that can help you to build those skills in your students. It's really important to not live in a vacuum, right? So building instructional time is really important when you are trying to build like these independent musicians, right? So you structure your learning time so that every second counts, because you're going to need that time to make them so comfortable with the concepts and the skills necessary and with the music that they're faced with. They need to be so comfortable with that there's no doubt that they can perform it at a high level, so that when they step into a sight reading room, they have the confidence and the necessary knowledge and skills to navigate through that music with very little anxiety and uncertainty, right? So building that instructional time and being very purposeful with your time is important, because if you build the time, if you use your time wisely, the students notice that. If you're very clear about how you're using your time and what you're going to do and why you're doing what you're doing, they will notice that and they will respond to it. If you're serious about the work, they will be serious about the work. So think about, I always say this when I talk to a younger teacher who just had an unfortunate experience in the sight reading room, right? Or an unfortunate experience on the LGPE stage. I always ask them, do you wish you could get some of those early class periods back where you didn't have the didn't have a plan set up and have behaviors in place and practice, would you like to get those first 2 weeks of school back so that you could establish um, your the way you use instructional time? And every one of them has always said yes. I think that if we had just used our time more wisely, I would have been, or we all would have been more prepared in the sight reading room. Well, instead of doing that, just do it from the beginning. Just be proactive and start from day one, building your instructional time wisely. So the way they enter the classroom is important. Make sure you have music playing. Make sure that what they're going to see at some point on their music stand should be playing and starting to run through their head. Um, your pre-instructional time behaviors are really important. Do they have bell ringers? Do they have practice targets? Do they have do nows? Whatever you have as your policy in your school, make sure that you do that, but do it in a music specific way. So for us, we have a lot of do nows. A lot of times we'll incorporate things like, make sure you check in on, like make sure you complete the form, or make sure you've done your music theory assignment or this or whatever. But most of the time I have practice targets up on the board, on the rehearsal slide, saying these are the things that these are the measures we're going to work today. Make sure you're ready. Or these are the scales that we're really going to dig into today. Make sure you're ready. Um, and sometimes the do now is get everything in order. So make sure you are getting your pencil out, your highlighter out, make sure you've got your music out, make sure you've got your book, make sure you've got everything you need. So making sure that those pre-instructional time behaviors are locked in at the beginning of the year will save you a lot of pain and heartache when it's time for large group prep, especially sight reading prep. Um, Using your instructional time wisely and building it as the meat and potatoes of the class. So, where are you doing the bulk of your work? Where are they doing the bulk of their learning? Breaking it up into bite sized pieces, attainable pieces. The older the student, the longer they can stay focused. The younger the student, the smaller the chunks need to be. But it doesn't mean that the learning doesn't need to be just as meaningful, right? So, making sure you're taking full advantage of that time in the meat and potatoes time to get everything done. Plan that out very deliberately from the very beginning, and the kids will get accustomed to that. And it won't be this whole new behavior that you're exhibiting when it's time to get ready for large group. No, they're used to you being super prepared and ready to work, right? Set timers, don't waste time. Get that into their heads and make that a part of your routine. Go through your close down process, making sure you always close down with some type of a wrap up saying, this is what we did today. Now, tomorrow, we're going to focus on this. So, today we really focused on the march and really focused on march style. Tomorrow, we're really going to focus on the intonation in, you know, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, our middle tune, right? Um, and then exiting the classroom. So making sure whatever you need them to do, make it pertinent to the work that they did in class, right? Even if it's just a thumbs up, I had a great day as they're leaving your room, or thumbs down, today wasn't the day for me. I just didn't meet my goals. I didn't meet my goals. Whatever you need to do, make sure it's connected to the work that you're doing. This builds that culture in their brain of always working toward the goal. So, always moving forward. Everything that you do is geared toward meeting your goals. So, building skills, these are just some sample activities that you could use, right? So, stretching, mindfulness. Now, those may seem like they're not connected to skill building, but in order to play an instrument well, that is a physical act. So, you need to be loose, you need to be physically very loose and stretched and warm and ready to go. Mindfulness and breathing is really important because I need to get the kids centered and I need to be centered. And then getting into a headspace to work and to really put in the effort and the work that I need to put in to get better. It's like preparing to lift weights. That's what skill building is. And I always say that to my students. We are now getting ready to lift our musical weights. We're getting stronger. So we'll do a lot of mouthpiece buzzing. Um, with the younger kids, I even do mouthpiece work with the woodwinds because it helps to strengthen the embouchure. A lot of buzzing, a lot of long tones, a lot of flexibility exercises, a lot, a lot of, you know, lip slurs, chromatic exercises, intonation exercises, chords, whole tone scale for my older students, things like that. Really getting them um, waking up their ears and building their ability to really hear, match, and adjust, and also warming up and building the muscles in the face, building their lung capacity, their diaphragm, all of those things. So getting those muscles going. And then introducing concepts. So I feel like I'm going to say this all the time, and I say it all the time. Music theory is essential. You have to teach music theory. Teaching them to read and understand how music is put together is so important for them to be independent, right? They don't need you if they understand these music theory concepts, right? And if they know how to build a scale, they don't really need you. They know how a scale is built. They don't need you. If they know how a triad is built, they don't need you. They can do it all on their own. They can tune it on their own. And it really does help. They need to know why they're doing what they're doing, how the music is put together. And then method book work. Method books that's your bread and butter. And so you can build skills in the method book, and you also build conceptual knowledge in the method book because they introduce new concepts, they introduce vocabulary, they introduce music history, they introduce, you know, time signature, key signature, all of these different things, all of this vocabulary. You get to teach all of this. And this is like their picnic basket, right? So conceptual teaching is like helping them pack a complete picnic basket, close it up, pick it up, take it over to another setting. So that's the sight reading room, right? And they get into that sight reading room. It's a new setting. They open their picnic basket, they spread their blanket, they spread all their food out, and they're ready to go. It's a whole new setting, but they have all of the things they need to know up here, right? To allow them to look at this music, unpack their picnic basket, and say, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. Let's go. All right. So I think, in my personal opinion, I think that orchestra teachers are the best at using the book to build those skills and then taking that and immediately transferring it over to music. I think sometimes band people, we tend to get caught in rote town, right? But orchestra teachers often have such a grasp on um, this picnic basket approach, and I just really admire them for that. So remember, sight reading begins and ends with consistent teaching and learning day to day to day to day. So you are preparing for the sight reading room the day after you left the sight reading room, right? So I would always tell mine, okay, we'll have the day of evaluation. I say, this is the first day of next year's LGPE season. And that's the truth because it's cyclical. It just keeps going round and round. All right. So if you have any questions, that's the end of this segment. If you have any questions or want to add anything to what I've said, now remember, this is all my opinion. You don't have to agree. But if you have anything that you want to add or just throw me a question, feel free to drop it on the discussion board. I'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned. Coming next is part 2, doing the work. So getting in there and getting their hands dirty. All right. Check us out on our website or any of our social media platforms there or on YouTube. And I will see you soon for part 2. Bye bye.